All right, so Devin Gardner, welcome to the Elite 11 podcast. Before we begin, I just want to give our listeners a quick rundown of your resume. You are currently an on-air broadcaster for both Bally Sports Detroit, as well as Fox College Football in the fall. You're currently mentoring and coaching young quarterbacks in and around Detroit, where you were born and raised.
Yep.
You're currently also coaching for us at Elite 11 now and have been for the past 3 years. You played professionally in the United States, Japan, and Canada. You were a 3-year starter at quarterback at Michigan from 2012 to 2014. And I believe the last quarterback, and at least in my Rolodex, to wear number 98 while playing the quarterback position. You were an Elite 11 counselor, college counselor in 2014 at the Elite 11 finals. You were an Elite 11 finalist as a high schooler in 2009. You were a 2-time, I believe, all-state quarterback at Inkster High School in your prep playing days in Michigan. You were a now extinct position or just a not current position anymore. You were an Elite 11 ball boy in 2008 at the 2008 Elite 11 finals.
That's right.
Did I miss anything?
I filled those Gatorade coolers up very well, by the way. I did.
You did. Did I miss anything on the resume?
Past, present, current? Parade All-American in high school, my highest honor, Oh, Emmy Award winner. You just missed
that's right.
A whole bunch. It's okay.
That's right. The burgeoning media career is something we can definitely get into, but appreciate you being on. Want to hop into it, starting with a timely football topic, right? Super Bowl most recently, as usual, is all about the quarterbacks. Two guys that just had amazing seasons and, really went toe to toe in the big game. Love it when the offenses are going back and forth like they did. As a former quarterback and now a quarterback coach, how was it watching Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes, go through those seasons and then, compete like they did in the Super Bowl on the biggest stage?
It really felt like a dream season, a dream Super Bowl, like the Super Bowl we've all been waiting for. I've been high on Jalen Hurts since when I was in college and saw him coming up, and then later on, I'm like, man, this guy's face never changes. Like, how is he able to weather the storm? And this is before he had gotten replaced or anything like that. He just never was too high, never too low. And then for him to, kind of deal with the adversity he had to deal with, it's well documented. I don't understand how he did it. I just don't. Like, I understand being a good teammate, but he was the best teammate. Like, Tua speaks so highly of how he helped him even while he watched him take his team to the next level. It's something that's amazing. And then obviously he's ready for his moment in the SEC championship, leaves, goes to Oklahoma, second in the Heisman, all these different things, and then kind of gets the same roll of the dice with the Eagles where they just paid a guy and then they draft you and you have to win a locker room and do all these different things that, most people wouldn't be able to do because they'd be looking at it as a woe is me opportunity of, well, they kind of got me and they want me to run and they want me to do whatever. But he won the locker room and he played amazing this past year. It's unbelievable. And then Patrick Mahomes, everybody acts like they saw it coming. The only team that saw it coming was the Chiefs, or else other teams would have drafted him, right? And so I just think that those two guys and their stories obviously pretty different, but the way they were able to play this year, galvanize their teammates, and the perfect teams, right? The best team on the in one conference and the best team in the other conference, they both made it to the championship exactly how you wanted to do, and they were so even. And for it to play out the way it did, it seems like a dream.
Absolutely. And I think it kind of speaks to where the quarterback position has gone, right? In the last 10 or 15 years, as you came through high school and were transitioning into college, we really were starting to see the evolution, right, of the spread, RPO based offenses. You had a chance, I think, a little bit with Rich Rod, right, at Michigan to play in a system like that. And really it's just kind of, it feels like it's opened up the way that guys can play at the quarterback position, and really more so like how it's accepted, right, to play the position. You don't have to be a robot that's in the pocket anymore. So how in your mind, and as you've seen it and gone through it as a player and now, as a broadcaster, how do you evaluate this position in terms of how it's evolved over those past 10, 15 years?
I mean, you said you don't have to be a robot anymore. It's almost like they don't want that, right? The standstill guy is gone. That time has passed. And it's a difficult thing just because for so long you were said to have to be 6'5", cannon arm. We don't want you running around doing anything, putting yourself in danger. But that's where everybody's going away. We see quarterbacks and for the longest time it was just the black quarterback that could do that, right? But that's not the case, right? You got Josh Allen, you got Joe Burrow, who I don't think people give nearly enough respect for the way he's able to maneuver in and out of the pocket and make plays. I mean, the evolution of the quarterback position is insane. Kyler Murray, Bryce Young, right? Smaller guys in stature who are, one a number one pick and one possibly another number one pick, but for sure a first rounder. The quarterback position is now a place where you don't have to be a freak athlete, right? It was kind of like the NBA at one point, where if you're not 7 foot, you can't be a center in the NBA. You can't play. You can't be a superstar. Where in football was, if you're not 6'4", you're not 6'5", you may be able to play at some college, but there's probably not a real spot for you at the highest level, and your dream is probably going to be deterred. But now that's not the case, right? At some point, there's going to be a 5'9" gunslinger running around and making plays. And so I love where it's gone. It gives so many more kids who don't have tall parents or tall grandparents a chance and a dream and a belief. Now, you have to be special, but I think that you now believe that you have a chance to execute and live your dream.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so you touched on Bryce Young real quick. I want to stay there for a second. You got a chance to be out as one of our coaches at the Elite 11 finals this past year, obviously, and we saw two guys as college counselors with Bryce Young and CJ Stroud that are going to be really talked about here, obviously, in the next 2 months as we go through the NFL draft cycle. What traits did you see in those guys when they were out this summer that you think are super valuable at the quarterback position and kind of have helped them ascend to this point now where they're being talked about as, the next two possible franchise quarterbacks, and somebody's going to give them, a multi-million-dollar contract here in the next couple of months?
Well, it was super interesting because similar to when I got a chance to be a counselor at the Manning Passing Academy when I met Peyton and Eli, vastly different people. Right, but somehow having equal success. Maybe Peyton was having a little bit more, but for those two guys, they're totally different. Right, you got CJ, where he's the guy he's always engaged. He's trying to pick everyone's brain. He wants to find a way to get better. Like he wants to move. And then you got Bryce, who's just more of a silent assassin, who's not going to say too much, right? But you can feel his energy. You can feel his aura. And it's weird because it's like we're not in a game setting, but you can feel those guys, right? And they're not being super vocal, right? But they're helping the young guys where they can. But you can feel the energy and how they lead men. And for Bryce, it's even more impressive because, like we talked about, he's not a big guy, right? He is a small man. And it's unbelievable the things he's been able to do as far as winning a Heisman and the way he plays football and the way he's able to navigate and find windows. I think for the longest time, you were thought to have to be tall so you can see over the line. Well, I'm 6'4" and I cannot see over the line. Taylor Lewan's 6'7". How am I going to see over him? You know what I mean? And it's always been about windows, but some guy said that you had to be tall, and it kind of hurt the game, I think, because so many young quarterbacks who weren't very big could have been amazing. But for Bryce Young, he does such a good job of finding windows, and his creative ability, I don't think there's anything like it, right? You got Patrick Mahomes, you got Caleb Williams, different things like that. But I think Bryce Young is right up there as far as a creator and his anticipation. Like he always has a plan, at least it seems like when you watch the film. And for CJ Stroud, man, he is a surgeon, right? We saw it in the Target Challenge where I think the highest score was like 40-something, right? And throughout the whole entire match, right? And he goes against like 40-something in the first round and it ends with 70 or whatever he did. And it's like he just has such an accurate arm, and I don't think he gets enough credit for being powerful as well. So both of those guys I think are going to be outstanding. And CJ Stroud, he was super impressive.
Yeah, two guys that they're there for a reason. They're going to be talked about for a reason, and exciting to see where they land. It's one of the fun things about this gig is getting to see guys as they come through at high school, and then you follow their journey moving forward. And
you secretly put your bets on guys like, oh, this guy's going to be really good. This guy might not make it, might not work out, and a lot of times you hope to be proven wrong when you say that a guy might not work out. You know what I mean? And then obviously you love to be proven right when a guy does become what you think he can become.
Yeah, so let's talking about guys that we thought were going to be good. Let's rewind a little bit and talk about you as a young quarterback, right? As you were kind of coming up, gangbusters junior year, right? You had physical ability and dual sport, like we talked about, athleticism that got you on the radar. But it was a couple camps, right, coming through I think after your sophomore year, right before your junior year, and then you got to Inkster and just absolutely crushed it on the fall, as a junior that year. What was the recruiting process like for you? Obviously, now kids are dealing with NIL and social media and things like that. I think when you were going through, what was it, still like MySpace maybe and that type of stuff? So
yeah, it wasn't. It was more Facebook, MySpace. It
yeah,
wasn't. It
yeah.
wasn't Instagram and all Twitter and all that. No.
But what do you remember most about the recruiting process, and any kind of interesting pitches or coaches and the way that they engaged with you, and kind of how you went about your process evaluating schools and coming to your eventual decision to sign with Michigan?
Well, first I want to kind of start at Elite 11 ball boy, right, after going to those camps, because people really don't realize how small of a bubble you live in when you're competing, right? Because around here, since I was 10 years old, I was probably the best quarterback. The only other guy was Rob Bolden, as I'm sure you remember, and so just always being this giant shark whale of a quarterback in this tiny pond that is Detroit or Michigan. It was eye opening to go to California and see Geno Smith and Taj Boyd and see all these guys, and even Chandler Whitmer, and see all these guys, and it's just like, you're not nearly as good as you thought you were. Mm-hmm. Right. And at that point, I might have had a scholarship or two from Notre Dame, maybe Michigan State. I don't know if Michigan had got in yet, but after that sophomore year, it was just like, man, I am nowhere near where I need to be. So you don't even know this. This is the first time you'll hear this. And my head coach didn't even know this. There was a security guard who actually went to my church when I was a kid. So after that summertime at the Elite 11 as a ball boy, when I came back, I was furious, like with myself and with like I felt like I was too arrogant. Like I didn't know what I didn't know, essentially, right? I didn't know what I didn't know. So everything I learned at that Elite 11 as a ball boy, I took it back and I did it every single morning at 5 o'clock in the morning before school, right? So the security guard, he would let me in, he would pick me up, let me in, and we would throw every single day, early in the morning before school. And the Inkster didn't have showers and things like that. So you can imagine I wasn't smelling the best by the time other kids got to school and school started. But I was determined to really be a quarterback right now. And I had saw so much, and the kids get that opportunity now where they get to see so much more. But when I had that opportunity, I took full advantage of it. I took full advantage of Bob Johnson, who I love to death, and still for a long time we kept in contact. Haven't talked to him as of late, but I took full advantage of the opportunity, and that helped me in my process. For the most part, Notre Dame was out of it because I had a bad experience with private schools in high school, right? I went to U of B first, and I'm like, you know what? There's no chance I'm going to another private school. Just a young mind who doesn't really know it's not going to be the same. But I was like, yeah, that's probably out. Even though I love the visit, I love playing in the camp, and Charlie Weiss was super nice, showed me his Super Bowl rings, and really said if I want to get one of those, I'd have to go to Notre Dame. Maybe he was right. I didn't get one. So, yeah. But Michigan kind of went to the forefront because I had a thought of like, if you are the best player in your state and your football team is a school like Michigan, right, you go to Michigan, right? It's not truly about how good the team is or who the coach is, right? And that's kind of the conversation I had with Coach Carter, because Florida and LSU were up there, right? They were in it, and I would have got to be warm a lot of the time. And so I really was in between, more Florida than LSU, but because of Urban Meyer. And so Florida, Michigan, and I had a conversation with Coach Carter about, where I want to live when I grow up. What kind of impact do I want to have? Like, I'm a guy that wants to stay in my community. I want to help the people that grow up in my community. And so Michigan was just an obvious choice, not to mention my grandfather had died way before I got into football recruiting and all that stuff. And his favorite school was Michigan, right? So it just kind of seemed right. My older brothers had gone to the Michigan camps, right? And so they never got a chance to go to Michigan. And so it kind of felt like I was able to live a dream of not only me, but a lot of other people in my life that I really cared about.
Yeah, there's certainly something to be said to be that hometown hero, right? And be able to stay connected to family and stay local. And you obviously had a really strong option there in your backyard to end up and go to Michigan. Let's go back. I love that you touched on Coach Johnson. It was so awesome to work with him for so many years when we were starting up Elite 11. And one thing I vividly remember, and you talked about it a little bit, coming back and being disappointed in yourself, but you really took full opportunity, I think, of your opportunities when you're out there. I remember seeing you down late at night. We had a video game lounge set up at the old, the old Elite 11 finals at Soka University in South Orange County, and guys would be down there and they'd be playing NCAA, right? And we'd kind of come down and rattle the cage at 11 and, make sure you guys got up and got to sleep and all that sort of stuff. But I remember while other guys were playing video games, you'd be kind of over on the, it wasn't a grease board back then. I think it was like either like a real chalkboard, and going through stuff with Coach Johnson or watching film cut-ups and really tapping in and kind of squeezing everything you could out of that experience. But just talk about, that time and just your mindset, I guess, as a young man, because a lot of guys are enjoying the fruits of their labor and the experience of being at the Elite 11 and, that type of stuff. But you really dove in on all the football aspect and tried to squeeze everything you could out of it.
Yeah, so one thing I learned was a lot of these other quarterbacks who had gotten so talented. I never had a personal quarterback coach, right? Nobody never really taught me. I watched the internet and I just was a talented athlete and kind of just really tried to do whatever I could, right? Take the steps on your toes, like some quarterback coach told me, right? Whether it was right or wrong, right? I just did it to the best of my ability and tried to get as good at it as I could. And so when I got there, I wondered, I realized, like, wait, these guys have guys who really know football, know quarterbacking, and are teaching them all these things, right? And so I got a guy in Bob Johnson right here who is he's willing, right? He's willing to help me as much as possible. So we would stay down there till like 2 or 3 in the morning, like just watching. I'm supposed to be sleeping, right? Getting ready for the 11. But I'm like, this part is so much more important. And it's funny you said, like, at that age, I knew that, the physical stuff, right, it's good. It's all good. But the mental part of it is something that I lacked. And I was willing to sacrifice a little sleep to try to get that mental part that I probably wouldn't be able to get when I went back home. And so obviously the camp's not that long, right? It's not 10 days, right? So I got to get as much as possible. And that was kind of my mindset. And it really helped, man. It really, truly helped. And you kind of touched on the beginning how I kind of exploded that junior, senior year. And that was a part of the reason, right? Because I kind of knew what I was seeing. I had different techniques now that I learned at Elite 11 that I could, apply to my game and kind of add that to that athletic ability that I naturally had.
Absolutely. The other thing I remember when you were out at Elite 11, we would go and play hoops down at Laguna Beach, and it's fun to see you guys off the field because I think we always talked about you have to love to compete, right? Yeah. You can't just be everything. Guys are throwing, I'll go, but we see it whether it's the video game contest or ping pong or tiddlywinks or whatever. But I just recall you guys had a group that went down and got after a little bit on the blacktop course there.
Oh, of course, right? So we're going to Laguna Beach, and I'm not much of a swimmer, right? I'm not the guy trying to get in the water, right? I live in Michigan. It's usually cold.
It's warmer than Lake Michigan, though. Did you go in at all?
It's probably warmer, but I'm not the guy that wants to just drown at the 11, right? And so, but the one thing I do, I hoop, right? I play basketball, play for the Detroit family growing up for AAU, and play for other programs as well. But I'd always, since I was 10, I've been a basketball player and a football player. And I kind of used those to kind of drive. Now, basketball wasn't as talented. I started football when I was 5, right? So I had a lot of catching up to do. But I worked at it, right? I worked at basketball just like I worked at football, even though football I would have to go to camps and things like that. But I played my junior year. We were 24-2 in basketball. And what's happening right now, and now a lot of people talk about it, so this is not something that I'm just thinking of like I'm so smart or something like that, but everybody's taking kids away from other sports. And the skills you develop, you have no idea how much I try to implement into workouts that I do with the kids, different skills, because a lot of kids, parents don't want them to play other sports, right? And so it's so hard to develop those skills, right? A point guard making decisions, that's the same as a quarterback, except it's real time, fast, over and over again, making decisions, right? The ability to jump high, the ability to change direction, the ability for a defensive player to bring his hips and run through contact, right? Just like a hockey player that's running side to side, building those different muscles. I think it's so important. I remember a DB named Blake Countess who played at the University of Michigan with me. And growing up, he had done every sport and he was a gymnast, right? And so he was just super physically strong and had great control of his body and everything he did solely because of the years as an adolescent doing all those gymnastics or whatever he had to do, right? He probably got made fun of. He's doing the splits, all these different things, but he has those muscles, right? And he's built up, and that's something that can't be taken away. Right? It's like riding a bike. When you learn those skills, they kind of stick with you forever. And the fact that a lot of kids are being taken away from all these different sports, I don't think it's a good thing. But I've made it a point to tell all the parents in my group, the kids need to play baseball and they need to play catcher, because I've learned that catcher is the position in baseball that directly correlates with playing quarterback, where you have to obviously make quick decisions, but you got to get the ball, put your feet in line, make throws, and I think that's Tom Brady played it. A lot of different quarterbacks
Matthew
played it.
Stafford.
So
Yep,
Matthew
exactly.
Stafford, I think that playing catcher is something a lot of quarterbacks should try to do, just because you get all these extra reps at doing the thing that you truly want to do without even having to do it.
Love it. The multi-sport thing, I think, is something that needs to be constantly reinforced, right? Because I'm going through it right now as a dad too. I got a 12-year-old, and we're being presented options as it relates to club sports, and you got to focus on this and year round on that. And I know from experience and just following these quarterbacks for the past 20 years, the opportunity to compete as much as you can, where it's a real game, there's whistles, there's refs, there's a scoreboard. That's so much more valuable than, drills are great, and we do some fun drills, and we'll get to that in a second, right, in terms of quarterback coaches, but there's got to be that mix in of competition. If you're only competing 10 or 11 times throughout the entire year, where there's a score kept and it means something to all your teammates, and it feels big. I just don't think that's enough to really continue to grow those kids like they need to be. So I want to get to, I think we got re-engaged, right? The first camp that you came out and worked for us, as we had you as a counselor, right? And you were a good counselor,
Yeah, I feel like I was all right counselor.
Yeah,
I don't really compete though. Right? I saw those other college quarterbacks and I'm like, I'm here to compete. I'm here to make sure I'm the best quarterback here.
Well, that's what I love now that we've got you out as a coach the last couple of years on the regionals. I think the first time was probably during COVID, right, where we had you down to Chicago.
Indiana, I think.
2020, right?
Yeah.
So, but I love it because you compete as a coach, right? And it's fun to watch, like, you and guys like Quincy interact, right? And you get a little loud at your drill and look around and see that nobody else is doing it like you, right?
I don't know what Quincy's issue is. He's always trying to compete with me. Quincy, get out of here, please.
But how's it been for you? Because I know you've coached a little bit in Detroit, right? Obviously, and started doing that once your playing career ended. But what's it been for you to get back out at the regionals and re-engage with the Elite 11, and kind of been the favorite part of that journey the last couple of years that you've came back around and really got going with us?
It's so much fun. It's like the full circle dream of like, hey, how would you like this to go? Well, I want to be a ball boy, the earliest I can go to the 11. And then I want to participate in the Elite 11 as a finalist. And then at some point as a college quarterback, I hope I'm playing well enough that they invite me back to be a counselor. All right. And then once I'm a counselor, I'm going to play a little bit, but I want to be a coach for the Elite 11. Right. And so this is how it's gone for me. And it's been awesome. And the one thing that's super important for me, just like back when I was going and meeting with Bob Johnson, every time I'm at an Elite 11, whether it's regional, we've done the academies and especially the finals as well, I learned so much. I learned something new every single time, right? And so, these kids come to this camp and they think that, oh, I'm coming to this coach. He's not going to learn anything from me. I'm just going to learn everything from him. But I learned so much from these kids and how to coach different kids and what certain kids need. It's been awesome, and especially for the academies when you get to spend a couple days with them and the finals. Those are super special because you really get to know them. You know their personalities. You know what you can really help them with. Yeah. That it's something so small it's going to change their lives forever. Similar to the way Bob Johnson did for me, and it's been amazing. It's been a dream come true. And the only person I don't learn something from is Quincy. Surprisingly enough, I learned stuff from Quincy as well. And different personalities, right? I mean, Troth and all these guys. I mean, it's amazing to really see all these different styles of quarterback coaching, right? Different techniques, and you can kind of steal from. I have the kids I have read a book called "Steal Like an Artist," right? And I encourage everyone to go buy it and read it. It's not a very long read; it's a very easy read. But the whole premise of the book is nothing is original, right? Everything is stolen, right? Somebody steals from here, and they have a lot of excerpts from Kobe, who said, I stole everything from all my favorite players and I mashed it together to make it my own, right? And so when I get a chance to go out with Tom House in California, and I get a chance to come to Elite 11 and see Quincy work and see JP work and all these guys, it's like, oh man, I like that. I know a kid that could work for. That won't work for every kid, but that'll work for a kid. And I can kind of mush it all together and make it my own. And I think that's why a lot of our quarterbacks have really, really developed, right? I don't have any pride in I'm only going to do it my way or else, so.
No, love that. And we've always been about that, right? Like if there was only one way to get a college scholarship as a quarterback or to make it to the NFL, like that book would be written and everybody would follow that manual, right? But we've seen so many different guys come through, and even guys in your class, but it's every year. There's an under recruited guy that ends up being a first round pick, and there's guys that are only 160 pounds that are just late developers, and so that's just part of the beast. So we love to get different voices like yourself, and you said it. If you stop learning and think you know it all, you're done. In this profession. And, so it's great to have that mentality and that approach. And it's one of the reasons why we love having you out there, obviously. Yeah. But you're also a bit of a Renaissance man, right? You've gotten into coaching as your playing careers ended. Yeah. You're now into broadcasting and media. What got you kind of inspired to take that route? And how did you kind of break through into that profession? Because obviously there's a lot of ex-players that think, oh, I'm going to get into broadcasting or I'm going to get into media, but it's not that easy, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much every single player that goes to college. I'm going to do communications, right? Because they think, hey, I'm going to play football for 325 years, and then once I'm done and I make all this money, I'm just going to go talk about sports on TV. And it seems super easy, but it's not. It's not at all. And the way I got into it was it was almost a mistake. And a lot of people were like, man, how'd you elevate so fast? Right? You were doing high school games this year. Now you're doing all the Big 12, Big 10 games. And how are you doing it? And so my story is a little different than everyone else's. When I went to college, obviously I chose communications as my major. Yeah. And because, I was a student athlete, right? I was competing to play, and one of the classes, the prerequisite classes, kind of interfere with practice, right? And so, you know what happens then, right? You got to get that class, choose a new class.
Switch that class fast, yeah.
Once you get too far in, you can't go back to those classes, right? You're almost a sophomore, junior, whatever. And so I thought that dream was dead, right? I thought being able to talk on TV after sports is dead because I thought, hey, I don't have a degree in it. And so that's when I started to find my passion for helping kids, right? And I started doing social work. And I went to graduate school for social work. But I'm done playing, and I chose to stop playing to help kids, start training kids. And, Dante Moore was the kid, one of the kids, and Alon Mitchell and DeQuan Finn, right? 3 kids who, that was just – I wasn't going to do a bunch of kids. It was just those 3 kids who I thought really, truly needed some of the information that I had, and I was going to try to get them to the highest level they can. Obviously, they all ended up going to Division I. Which was the goal, right? All go Division I and get a chance to compete at that level and get a full scholarship. So they did that. And so while I'm doing that, I get a call, and it's a guy from Fox Sports Detroit named Jeff Bile. He calls me. He's like, hey, you want to do games? And little does he know, I absolutely need to do games, right? Because you have the money from playing in the NFL and playing overseas, but if you don't have a job, right, and I'm not charging these kids, you got to find a way to subsidize your living, right? You kind of run out of money. And so it was right on time, right? And that's kind of how I live my life. Things come right on time. I went and I did well, and they offered me to do games, and then COVID happened, right? And so COVID was kind of the best thing that's ever happened to me because at that moment, Fox Sports Detroit needed program, right? Because there was no pitch, there was no sports, right? And so they're like, hey, football is going to start up in high school football, so let's just do a game every week. And I'm like, great, right? So not only am I going to make some money, right, good money for fall, I'm going to get all of these live reps, right? And so I get all these reps, and I develop, and I continue to get better. And one of the schools we did was West Bloomfield, right? And one of the higher ups at Fox went to West Bloomfield. So he just happened to be watching the game, right? So in one year doing high school football games, he saw the game. After that, I did some basketball, and that winter, he called my boss, Jeff Bile, and he said, who he had already had a relationship with, and he said, hey, how about this kid, Devin Gardner, and can we bring him out? We want to audition him, and it really against the interests of Jeff Bile. He said, absolutely, take him away, right? We don't want him. Take him, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you got a shelf life, a year or two with Devin, and you're done, right? For him to move on. Yeah.
So I go out and I audition, and I felt like I did well, but you never know, right? Now I don't live my life like that. Even at the regionals or the Nike camps at Elite 11, right? I do my best, and whatever my best is, that's what it is, And so a few weeks later, they called me and offered me a full package to do college games on Fox, right? And so that was the first year, and then this past year, right, I got even better games and more games, and it's been an amazing journey, and a journey that's it shouldn't have happened almost, right? Just because I wasn't able to do communications, right? And so I thought my dream was dead, but I stayed persistent. And when I was in college, as you know, the quarterback has to do media,
Yep.
Right. You have to do media. And so for me, when I got to grad school, I couldn't do it with the other team because I had class with the rest of the team because I had class at that time. So I would have to have my own individual media days every single week. And that was an opportunity for me to talk in front of the camera, right? And so I used that as an opportunity to improve and get reps and speak clearly and try to be as concise as possible and kind of work on that game of, hey, maybe there's an inkling that I may still be able to do this. I don't know for sure, but I'm going to be ready when my opportunity comes. And I was ready. I was ready when my opportunity came, and the rest is history, as they say. One Emmy winner.
Exactly. And so as you keep climbing this ladder and, hopefully keep doing well, better and better in broadcasting and bigger salaries and things like that, don't forget to start hooking up the people that, those guys that you're like texting right before a game's about to start, like, hey, what do you know about this quarterback? I got his game this week and I need a little, behind the scenes. Give me that nugget that I can share on the air that really sets
Brian,
me apart.
you are the greatest resource on the planet for a broadcaster. Ladies and gentlemen, he's seen every quarterback, literally every quarterback. Your favorite quarterback,
there we go.
He's groomed them. He's got a chance to touch his shoulders. He said his name at the check-in.
Fodder to the stars.
I'm just telling you, man. So I have to thank you publicly. Brian, you give me I get my nuggets from my research or whatever, but I text Brian for hey, what do you know about this kid? He may start. He might get a chance to play today, and you give me great stuff every time.
Love it. Here to serve. Obviously, that's the quarterback's job, right?
Yeah.
Make people around you better. So let's get into some fun, quick hitting stuff. You got the gift of gab, but I want to get concise answers on a couple of these and get a little rapid fire question going. You've been to so many quarterback events, right? As a coach, as a player, you've been on the field, you've played against some of the greats, you've been in training camp with some of the greats, obviously. Who's the best thrower of a football that you've ever witnessed in person?
Joe Milton. In person.
Elaborate on that one a little bit, because he's a name that people are going to talk about here in the next 6 months.
So Joe Milton, I mean, whatever the issues were or why he can't play and why he's unable, can he read defense, whatever, I don't care about any of that. As far as throwing a football, if you roll out a bunch of footballs and you take everybody around the country and go nameless, faceless, and you watch him throw a football, it is one of the most beautiful things you'll ever see, especially the deep ball. And I've never seen him throw not a spiral. He has great arm talent, all those different things. And so up close, and I've seen Ben Roethlisberger up close. Right, I was in camp with the Steelers.
Yep.
I've seen Tom Brady up close and Jimmy Garoppolo. I haven't seen Patrick Mahomes up close and obviously Josh Allen. But I'm just telling you, Ben Roethlisberger would be probably if it wasn't Joe Milton. But Joe Milton as just a pure thrower of the football, it's like watching a rocket get released from wherever rockets are released from.
A launcher. Yeah, rocket launcher. That's a great answer, though. I mean, we had Joe Milton in the Elite 11 finals in 2017, and physically there's no question he belongs, in the same sentence with whoever the more popular guys are going to be as it relates to answering that question. And excited to see what he, does and hopefully gets that opportunity this fall at Tennessee. Transition to the NFL. If you could start a franchise with one quarterback currently in the NFL, who would it be and why?
Patrick Mahomes. I love the access that the NFL gives because obviously we see what he's capable of doing as a pocket passer, as a runner, as a creator, as a just full-blown competitor. But him and how he communicates with his teammates on the sideline and on the field, that access is paramount because now everybody gets to see, it's not just about throwing. He's not this great quarterback because he's so talented, right? It's all the other things that he does outside of the lines, and I think that's super important. And so if I was going to start a basketball team, I'm picking Patrick Mahomes first.
Hey, 2 Super Bowls already. Yeah. You're not wrong there. What's your favorite? Yeah, exactly. Outside of football, what's your favorite hobby or activity, when Devin Gardner has a little bit of free time?
I don't know how many people. I mean, people who follow me on Instagram probably know this, but I love skating. I am a skater. I go skating, and I will skate till 2:00 in the morning, right? And I'm not big on going to the club or anything, but I will go skating, and it starts at 9:30, and I'll skate till 1:00 in the morning. Like I love it. I love skating.
Is this roller skate, ice skating, or
wheels? I used to go every Saturday when I was a kid, right? That was my fun thing to do. And I keep my skates in my car. It's probably not good because gets pretty cold here, but I keep my skates in my car just in case, right? I love going skating.
Man, I wish we'd known that when you're in high school. We could have got you out there rollerblading in Laguna with
Telling you, man,
your
it's good for balance and athletic ability. I'm telling you, if you're a great athlete, you can skate.
Love it. Love it. What's your most important daily habit as you kind of set up your days and get stuff accomplished? What do you hang your hat on?
Uh, I try every single day to work with the kids, man, because people are always like, man, you're moving up in this, and why are you still doing this? And they're not paying you much and all these different things. And it's just like, I owe it to them, right? Because I didn't have a dad growing up, right? And so there's so
Mhm.
many people who helped me, and in different things, different spots. Obviously, my oldest brother was huge in that, but there were other men that really helped me kind of develop. And I feel like I would be doing the world a disservice if all the knowledge that I accrued, whether it be positive or negative, right, the mistakes I made, if I wasn't able to give that back in some way, that's a failure. I failed, right? I've done nothing for this world. My favorite quote is Muhammad Ali: "The rent you pay for your room here on earth, right? Duties to others, that's the rent you pay for your room here on earth." Like, and I truly believe that. So I always try to think of something that will help the kids, or actually directly work with them every single day to make sure that I'm being selfless and trying to be the best person I can be.
Love that. Love that. I've seen you on the field, so I know you get fired up a little bit as a coach and an instructor.
Very fun.
What's your biggest football pet peeve?
Not giving great effort, right? Or the kid that it's something new, so he's like, I'm kind of gonna coast through it. I don't feel comfortable. I think that the best quarterbacks are the quarterbacks that give everything they've got, right? Give everything they got, even if they're unsure, right? They
Yep.
find a way to be sure, and if they make a mistake, right, they use that failure, like we talked about at the Elite 11 Academy. They use failure to propel themselves forward, right? But if you're just kind of tiptoeing through something just because you're uncomfortable, it's very hard to fail, right? You're probably just going to do okay, and that's nowhere. You're going nowhere from there. And so the lack of maximum effort is the biggest pet peeve for me.
It's a great one. It's a great one because it's something that you can control, right? You're going to
Something
miss
you directly
throws.
can control.
You're gonna go up against somebody that's maybe bigger, faster, stronger than you, but you
Yeah,
can always control your effort. Love
yeah.
it. Professional life, and so I'll call this. You weren't getting paid at Michigan, right? Well, you
No,
don't have
I
to
was
answer.
not getting paid at
So
Michigan.
let's talk about as soon as you finished as a student athlete at the University of Michigan. Since then, which two people have had the most impact on your professional life as you've worked through playing football, now transitioning into coaching in the media space? Are there a couple folks that stand out as just really great mentors or have kind of helped forge your path there?
Charles Davis, met him at the Manning Passing Academy, and
Mhm.
he actually, my first Fox contract, I didn't have an agent, and I sent him my He said send him his contract, and he'll get his agent to look over it, right? So I didn't even have to deal with that whole thing, and he's just looked out for me in so many different ways. And Jeff Bile, right? And obviously that name, a lot of people don't know it, but a lot of people do, especially in the media space, where he's kind of built different media networks, and he's given so many people their first job, and he's helped so many people, and he's fired so many people, right, and given them the failure they needed to propel themselves. But he's been very, very instrumental in helping me in my professional life, and he gives me great advice still to this day. And the quarterbacks think that once you get out of being a quarterback, you're done. I watch so much film. I watch more film almost now than I even did as a player. Every single Monday after the games that I call,
Yeah.
I go to his house and we sit and we watch, and he pretty much just rips my face off about how bad I was, and then he gives me a compliment here or there about things I did well, just like you would as a quarterback when you finish a game. And so I've kind of taken being a quarterback and moved it into my professional life, and kind of tried to live in that same way.
Love it. Love it. What teaching from growing up and coming through like elementary school and that time of your life has stayed with you most on your journey?
Hmm. Being kind to others. I don't know if you know or not, but when I was a kid, I wasn't the nicest kid in the world, right? I was always the biggest kid. I didn't really care about others' feelings, and I
Mhm.
didn't. I had impulse control issues, different things like that, right? You say something, it's like, oh, you probably shouldn't have said that. Maybe if you were thinking it's okay, but you shouldn't say it out loud. But I kind of, as I got older, continued to learn to be, aware of my surroundings, and make sure I don't try to hurt other people's feelings. Now, sometimes you make a mistake and do it, and those are things you can't truly control. But and when I was a kid, I was almost doing it just willy nilly, you know what I mean? And so just being kind to others, I think, is something that I've really kind of worked and continued to work on. And it came from getting in so much trouble from not being kind to others as a kid.
Yeah, you bounced around to a couple schools, but you definitely settled in,
Yeah.
and the person you are now, it's clear that's been a real focal point of
It
your
was rough
development.
for those UND days. Imagine me, the crazy me in a private school. Oh, it's devastating.
Let's go with one word to describe yourself.
Oh, that's tough. I will almost Charles Barkley that and went go getter. Fighter. Fighter.
There you go. What's the best meal that you know how to cook?
Lasagna. Outstanding. I'll get it for you sometime.
I'm down. I'm a big lasagna guy.
Yeah.
Worst injury you ever sustained playing football?
Ohio State game, first drive of the second half, broke my foot.
Ooh. Who's your favorite player growing up?
Michael Vick.
Yeah, I knew that one.
Barry Sanders was a very close second.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Growing
Yeah,
up
but
in
he didn't play quarterback,
Detroit.
and I got taller than him when I was like 10. So it's just like, you know,
If you could have dinner with any three people, dead or alive, who would they be?
it'll be Barack Obama because he gave me a shout out and I didn't get a chance to thank him. And I want him to come to the dinner so I can thank him. J. Cole, he's my favorite rapper ever. And yeah, he's like a younger version of Jay-Z, so I wouldn't have to have Jay-Z there. I can have my favorite rapper and a little
Yep.
bit of Jay-Z because I'm sure he's had a lot of dinners with him. Denzel Washington. I use a lot of what Denzel kind of. I don't know if you've seen a lot of his inspirational things and different things when he tells groups and people kind of sneak and record and things like that. But some of the nuggets that he gives are some of the same nuggets I try to pass on to the kids I work with. And so those three people I think will give me great nuggets. And obviously Obama is amazing, first ever African American not quarterback but president.
Being the president's just like the quarterback. Everybody's looking at you and telling you can do a better job than you, right?
Yep.
What's your thought? We'll get on the NFL draft. This isn't who you would pick if you're a GM, but who is going to be the first quarterback that's going to be taken in this year's NFL draft?
Now I've gone back and forth, and I just saw it was a TikTok video of a guy kind of breaking down why Will Levis will be the first pick, and it made a lot of sense. I want to put on record that I would not pick Will Levis. I wouldn't. I don't even know if I would take Will Levis in the first round. Right?
But you're saying he's going to be the first
I think
quarterback.
he's going to be the first pick. Frank Reich, and these were the reasons. He's never coached a quarterback under 6'4". Right? Doesn't like small players. The coach generally don't like small players. Right? And so that kind of removes Bryce Young from the equation. And I think a lot of people are getting kind of a bad taste in their mouth from Ohio State quarterbacks. It's like, okay, you're really, really good at Ohio State. And then what are you, right? And obviously,
no bias there, right? No bias. Yep.
No, absolutely. I think I've already talked about how I feel about C.J. Stroud, but I'm just saying the bad taste of like, hey, Dwayne Haskins, rest in peace, right? You just weren't what we mentally or physically as a quarterback. We didn't like you. We didn't think that you kind of put in the time. And then Justin Fields, right? It remains to be seen, but they're talking about training him already. Things like that. And it's just like, do we want to go through that again? And so I think that eliminates C.J. Stroud a little bit, and I think Will Levis is the prototypical what Frank Reich has always wanted, has always seen. He can move a little bit, but he's big, he's strong, right? He can throw the ball down the field. I think that's going to be the reason. And let me reiterate, I would not pick Will Levis first, but I think that could be something that happens.
Interesting. Like it. What's your favorite memory from the 2022 Elite 11 finals this past summer?
That's a tough one. That was a fun Elite 11. I think the time we got a chance to spend when I was with Yogi and we were doing kind of the media training, and it was media training, but it was a lot of kids being who they truly are and not their social media personality, not their Elite 11 quarterback personality, like who they truly are. And I got a chance to learn a lot about those kids and kind of the struggles that they may have and the things that they're fighting through. Because when you look at the Elite 11 quarterback group, you're like, oh man, these kids got it made, right? They're going to get a lot of NIL. They got 5-4 stars. They're at the Elite 11. They're getting all this free gear. They are living the dream. And you find out it's like it's not quite exactly how it seems always. And you see that some kids have this great background that you look at them and you think, oh man, that guy's he doesn't care about others. He's not intentional. He's just got some talent. And then you get to learn about him and their family and their background. And you're like, wait a minute, I had this kid pegged completely wrong. Right. So I think that's why the Elite 11 is so great. And that session was something that I really kind of cherished.
Amazing. What's it like playing in front of 100,000 plus at the Big House?
115,000 and some change, to be exact, the largest college football crowd in America, or football crowd in America ever. It's amazing. It can't be described. The adrenaline that you feel when you go out to warm-ups, and it's just like people here or there, and it's like not quite full, go back in the tunnel, and then you come out of the locker room for the last time, and the entire crowd is there, especially in a night game. I just vividly remember the Notre Dame game, 2013, 115,000 plus, and they all have these yellow pom-poms. Like, are there any Notre Dame fans even here? Right? It just looks like the entire crowd is a sea of maize, and it's just the most exhilarating feeling. And then go over maybe 109, 110,000 against Penn State when you're trying to call a play with everybody this close to you and they can't hear a word you're saying, right? And a lot of people are like, man, that must suck. No, it's the most amazing feeling in the world, right? And obviously those are my two favorite places to play. The Big House, obviously, in the night game, and then that whiteout at Penn State is second to none.
Love it. Last thing before we let you get out of here, you're in media. I know you consume a ton of the dailies, right, as it relates to building your repertoire and seeing the topical stuff. What's on your mind as it relates to a hot topic around our sport of football right now? And I'll give you the soapbox for a minute or two to elaborate on your thoughts.
I don't truly have a hot topic, right? I'm not the hot topic guy, in my opinion. I kind of think of things as they come, but the one thing that the Lamar Jackson thing is kind of something that's kind of bugging me, right? Because, and I think I got a little of that in college, where I took a lot of responsibility for things that weren't my fault, because that's what the quarterback is supposed to do, right? You're taking sacks or you're throwing picks, and in reality, guys aren't where they're supposed to be. The protection isn't quite what it should be, and that's being kind. And you take responsibility for it, like you should, like a leader should, and then you kind of get nicked for it, right? Yeah. And it hurts. It hurts, right? But you kind of try to stay steadfast in that way of thinking and that way of leading, and hope that people appreciate it. And for me, I'm kind of getting that on the back end. Right, I didn't get it at the time, where I'm this big, strong quarterback, but I throw some interceptions and things like that, and I'm not protected very well. But I'm taking responsibility for all of it, whether it's my fault or not. And for Lamar Jackson, I feel like he's getting a lot of that, but on a much grander scale, where there is no football players in the world who are in a contract years, have run an MVP, has the most wins of any quarterback in their draft class, and they were drafted last in the first round, obviously, that are going to go to camp and practice. And not only go to camp and practice, OTAs, every single thing. Do everything the presumable right way. And then you actually do get hurt, right? That's the one thing that everybody gets afraid of. Like, that's why you don't do it. You just don't do it, right? But he's the leader. He's a leader of a team. He's a person that wants to lead the right way. No matter what people think of him, there's not a person who'll say he's not a good leader or a great leader. And he goes, he plays with everything he's got, and then he gets hurt. And then they use it against him, And so that's something that's really bugging me, because in my opinion, why did he have to fight for this in the first place? Why wasn't it something? Because Joe Burrow's not going to have to fight for it, right? Joe Burrow's contract is going to be nice and laid out. It's going to be lucrative. It's going to be all these different things. And the fact that he had to fight so hard, he did all the things right, and then he gets hurt, and now we are in the situation he's in the situation that he's in right now. It's really kind of disheartening, but it's an example for everyone else moving forward. You can't do it, right? Because it's a business, and you learn so much that it's such a business that they don't truly care how you feel or what you've done for them. They're going to do what's in the best interest of their program, and so that's the position he's in right now, and I hope it works out for him, but I hate that he has to deal with that, because he's given everything to that city. And I'm sure the city loves him. His teammates love him. And he better not put a purple and black uniform on. I can tell you that. Don't wear it again. Don't answer the calls. Don't do anything. You tried it the nice way. You got to do it the way that everybody else does it. And I know his teammates, if they do end up signing him, they won't hold it against him, right? They understand you gave everything, and it's about the money, because I'm sure he'd do the same for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Tough situation. I mean, maybe he could learn from you and pick up the phone and connect with Charles Davis and try to get him to help him out with that contract.
Absolutely.
I mean, the topic of having an agent or not, is certainly one that I think a couple players have differing opinions on. But in a circumstance like this, there's guys that are the best at what they do, and it's a tough situation when you don't have an agent and you got to go in and negotiate, and I think that adds a little bit of complexity to that situation. But certainly a franchise quarterback that's going to get paid like a franchise quarterback by someone.
At the beginning, the old agent thing, I thought it was cool, right? You got your mom, because in the beginning, how much can an agent really change things, right? You kind of got that set number. You're going to get maybe a few dollars here or there, but this is where the agent is so important. And it was the same in media for me, right? That beginning contract is the same as everybody else's. But those following years, when you've done good work, that's when you need somebody to go in and be a butthole for you. And you don't hear any of the conversations, right? You don't hear any of the conversations. All you know is you got a new contract, you're making more money, and now you're buying new things. That's all you need to know. You know what I mean? So I think that he definitely has to get that under control so that he doesn't have to keep walking in and hear them say the bad things or whatever's happening.
Yeah, amazing conversation, and hopefully we get to have a bunch more with you. Appreciate you hopping on today, the Elite 11 podcast. We got the regional schedule coming out soon. We'll be out across the country looking for the nation's top quarterbacks, and then heading towards the Elite 11 finals, and looking forward again this year to having you be a big part of that whole operation.
Can't wait.
Love it. Thanks for jumping on, buddy. And so thanks so much for all the work you've also done in Elite 11, not just the past few years, but as a college counselor and filling up those Gatorade coolers as a ball boy as well.
I did a good job. Elite.
11.
Elite.
11.
Elite.
11. There we go.
Let's go.